So I will try to give you an overview and a little bit of background why we are doing this, building upon the information that Geir just gave you. And what we are doing is about media management. And at the NRK, we have huge amounts of media. We have huge amounts of video and audio and stills and metadata. And of course, all of you can see where this is from. Of course you can't, because nobody can. Maybe one person at the NRK could actually tell me exactly what this is. But regular people like you and like me need the metadata, the description to know, okay, this was Eurosong 1996 in Norway. It was Gina G. So we need the metadata as well. And for people, total geeks like me, it's very cool just to have huge amounts of media and huge amounts of metadata and databases and stuff like that. But for the rest of the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation, we need a user interface as well, so that people can actually use this. And they use it because they want to get the content out when they are making content based on stuff that we have in our media system. And if they, or when they, because they always do, they always make stuff that is so interesting that they want to keep it for later use as well. So we need a system, and we have a system today which have some problems, and that's why we're building a new one. And I will try to give you an overview of the biggest problems with the stuff that we have today and what we need from the stuff that we are trying to build. So where do we come from? From here, content on tapes. And the metadata was here, written on the different tapes. And you could go down in the cellar, and we still have some tapes down in the cellar here. When I started working for the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation back in the 90s, we actually had a computer down there. So you could go over to the computer, and you could search, and you could get, okay, I need that tape. And then you got the right tape from. But then at some point in the late 90s, we started to store both media and the metadata on hard drives. So we have content and metadata. And the data model that we made kind of resembled a world where we have tapes. So kind of huge amounts of tapes, but on a hard drive instead. Like this. You need a media clip. Before you can do anything, you need a media clip, because it's kind of you need that tape before you can start writing on it. And when you have the media clip, you can add metadata to that media clip. That's the way it works today. And already we see a problem here, because they want to start writing the metadata before they have a media clip. So they have to make a kind of a container media clip to be able to start. But it works. So why do anything? This one also works. How many of you have a phone like that? It would work if you had them. You could actually turn it on and talk to it. But you don't have a phone like that, because there are some kind of, you can be slightly more effective in your work if you have a phone like you have, with the built-in computer and everything. So the system that we have today is kind of a little bit like party like it's 1999. And that's a problem. Because we have huge amounts of very, very modern, very, very high-end stuff at the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation. We have very modern production systems. We have very, very nice web TV offering, and we have huge amounts of traditional TV offerings as well. All of it rely on the content management system that we have. And at some point, inevitable, it will go down and give us some errors. And the problem is that when this one fails, then I can actually use the very nice flame effect here, because everything goes down. We're very, very dependent on this system. And when everything goes down, we call the vendor, and the vendor says, we can help you in 3 weeks. No, they don't. That would be very nice if they could help us in 3 weeks, because they say the product line is discontinued. We can't help you at all. And that is a huge problem. That is one of the biggest problems, that we actually have some technology here where the vendor says it's discontinued. We can't help you. We're not going to fix this. So that's one part of it. We need to do something with the oldest parts of the technology. In addition to that, we have an audience that changed their habits. This is the use of media in Norway since the 1960s. The blue line here is the traditional newspapers. How many of you invested huge amounts of money in traditional newspapers lately? Or in printing presses? They have some problems. And in Norway, of course, all of the traditional newspapers are also here on the web and on mobile, so it's not that bad, but it's very nice that they started seeing this. Actually, at some point early this year was the first time mobile was bigger than traditional newspapers in Norway. Norway traditionally is huge regarding traditional paper newspapers. Traditional TV, not dying yet, radio is not dying, but these two are growing very, very fast. And we are used to delivering content to this one, and as you can see here, it's not dying. It's interesting what's happening right now. This is up until today, or until April 2015. So the last part here is winter, and winter is traditionally very high usage of traditional TV. So it is actually a little bit worse than this shows, because this shows that it's flat. It should actually have gone a little bit up. Will be interesting to follow that in the years to come. And we can also see that our audience are slowly demanding other kind of services. Huge amount of them still like to walk here and watch traditional TV. It's not that. But also a huge amount of them want stuff faster, so they choose to go over here, have a shortcut. And not only that, they want more. So they want more and they want it faster. And we give them more. We give it faster with the web TV offering. I'll get a little bit back to that. But we also give them more in kind of length and in kind of depth, and with some very, very strange television programs that we absolutely didn't see coming and we did not plan for when we made the current content management system, like this one.
And now for the last look. It is the smash hit of the summer in Norway. More than 1/2 of that nation's population tuned in this week to see what is being billed as the world's longest TV program, 134 hours in length. It isn't some gripping drama with great cliffhangers or a racy mini-series, and I guess you could call it a reality show, but humans were only bit players. It was a live camera, actually 11 of them, showing the ocean, some trees, rocks, from a cruise ship as it navigated around Norway. Really, this is what gets the Norwegians to rally around their television sets. Take a look and a listen. I actually find it rather soothing. I guess they did too.
Well, they did, so it was a huge success. And it's not the only kind of television program called slow TV. It has been huge amounts of other programs that we've made. This particular broadcast was 134 hours of live broadcasting, which equals insane amount of media that made some problems and insane amount of metadata. And giving descriptions of all of it so that it's possible to search through that is immense amount of work. And we got help from our viewers, because we made a competition saying that, okay, here is everything. You can download every second of this and you can make something of it. And people made something of it. They made time-lapse videos, they made different kinds of stuff. But a viewer from Denmark, he sat down and indexed all of it. 134 hours of broadcasted TV, where he gave us a database with all the stuff that's happening, exactly when, with a link to the web TV, so you can click the link and get to that part. What kind of part it was in the shadow of the satellites or not. And he spent, because we had some idea that we were going to give the prize for this competition after 1 month. We had to wait 6 months because he worked on this for half a year, and then we could give him the prize. And the prize was, of course, a gift card for traveling in Norway, and he he went on the Hurtigruten boat for that money. And the only problem he had, because we talked to him when he was taking the boat, that was, but I have to sleep during the night, so I miss some parts of it. With the television, I could stop and pause, and I could sleep a little bit, and I could hit play. So he has to do it once more and stay awake during night so he can have everything live. But it's interesting, and the point here is that this does not fit into the systems that we have today. It's rather special, but still it's stuff that we can't kind of connect it to our media asset management system today. This is with timecode everything. And there is another thing as well, is that it's the way we work and the way that the big difference between broadcasting and publishing. Traditional broadcasting is very much about trying to fit huge amounts of content into a pretty narrow window. Where we have 1, 2, or 3 television channels. We have a couple of hours prime time each evening, and our work is to try to select all of this fantastic content that we have and fit into that narrow window where we can meet our audience in the evening on television. On the web, it's the other way around. We have huge amounts of content and kind of an unlimited window to the audience. 135,000 programs that they can choose from. So within broadcasting, we have a hard time selecting the content, and publishing world, our audience have a hard time selecting the content. And what kind of the knowledge that we need and the way we work over here is that we do huge amounts of work regarding selection, timing, when are we going to broadcast this? We have to look at our competitors, what they are broadcasting, late in the evening, early, and the technical quality on that platform. And over here, we need more to pay attention to these things. Right management is very important, and it's very important that our asset management system support this. Usability design, so that our audience actually find the content. And the metadata. Metadata is something that we accessed internally here at the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation, but now the audience also access the metadata because they are searching and trying to find content. So it's kind of going from a delivery problem where we have a narrow window and have to spend huge amounts of time to fit the content in to more of a discovery problem for the audience. But we made a successful web TV offering, and the audience are actually finding content. But there are huge challenges and stuff that we want to do with this offering because it's growing and growing and outgrowing the technical systems that we have. It's kind of, our production systems are not made for that kind of publishing. So what do we do? What do we need to do with this? It's very, very complex. It's huge systems. And I will try to make this much easier because it's complex systems. And I will make it easier by just removing all the complexity. And tell you a little bit about how it's built up. We have the user interface on top. We have some core systems in the middle here. And we have the media and metadata at the bottom. And I'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do with some of the systems here, starting with the media and metadata. We want to go from that model I told you about, tape-based data model, to a model where we have a unique ID instead. So you can start with the unique ID for your program, and then you can add media clips, assets, and all the metadata. Kind of a simple change, but it's a big change regarding how our databases work today. And when we do this, the quality of these metadata is extremely important, especially because it's no longer only professional editors and journalists that are accessing these metadata, it's also our audience. Our audience is not used to that, and our audience don't know that you have to search in special ways if you want to find. We need even better metadata. And to get better metadata, we're going to use some authority registers. And I know that not all people know what an authority register is. Wikipedia is an example of a database that have one. And I'm very interested in drones. And if I do a search for drone in Wikipedia, do I want this answer or do I want this answer? It depends on what kind of drone you're searching for. And Wikipedia have a authority register, so it asks, you know, drone is two different things. So drone is a word that are several times mentioned in Wikipedia, and each of them have a unique idea so that you can get the right drone and not just some random drone when you're searching. And Wikipedia is one example, and I guess you have all seen that when you search for a person or search for something in Wikipedia, it will ask you, yeah, but you know, this one or this one. But we also need same kind of system to get correct places when we tell the metadata system that this was recorded in Oslo, or correct people when I tag our Prime Minister, Jens Stoltenberg. There are more people in Norway called Jens Stoltenberg, so it could be another one. We need to know that it is that Jens Stoltenberg. And events, that we have the correct events. If I say that it's the Football World Cup, but yeah, but which one? So we need registers to be able to make sure that all these things are correct. For the correct places, we are already using that in our system, weather broadcasting system, where we have an authority register of about 7 million places. So when you search, and if you want to get the weather in Geneva, you can write Geneva over here, and then you get all the different answers because, okay, probably you mean Geneva in Switzerland. But it could mean Geneva in Alabama, or Illinois, or in Nebraska, and so on. And especially if you're making a television program, and it was actually made in Geneva in Alabama, it's quite important that the metadata is correct, so that you don't have people searching, oh cool, this is the footage from Geneva in Switzerland. No, it's not, it's from the US. So you need that kind of system baked into the metadata, so that the journalists also get that question. Okay, what do you mean? Because these are linked to the GPS coordinates and are securely listed in this database, which this is Norwegian, but it's the authority register for places that we are using and that we already use within different systems. And then the usability, the top layer, about the user interface, or like Geir said, it's the user interfaces, many of them, and we have huge amounts of duplicate work, which is very inefficient. Both inefficient because people need to learn different systems. When they search one place, here in the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation, no, they can search that way, and then they have to search another way because it's another system. And I don't know now if you're writing metadata. I guess most people here love to write metadata, and if they could, they want to write it twice or three times if possible. Our journalists don't like that. They're frustrated and angry, and they don't like to write metadata even once. So we need to do something to unify this so that we can have training where you have one kind of training, and okay, if you have learned to search, then you can search all over, and that you don't have to write stuff several times. And that all of these talk to the bottom systems without you having to choose first. So it's kind of going from different silos where some vendors want to give everything all the way down because they can sell everything all the way down. But we want to kind of move away from that to more of building platforms so that we are more independent between the different layers. So how are we going to do this? Something that they're going to talk more about later. We are going to do it module-based and we are already doing some work. We have already done some work over here, and we are looking at it already. And we are going to build and buy and build. This is a rough overview because it could be possible that we buy something here and that we buy something here and that we build something here, but roughly the user interface is something that we want a little bit more control of, because we know our users, and we want to be able to help them even closer to build the best possible user interface. And this is something we are very dependent on this, and we will try to have a look at more use of open source tools like the web today, where they use very much open source in the bottom layers of the databases. And then we know that we have to buy quite a bit of the stuff here. And I will let Robert take over and talk a little bit more about this part and the way it connected upwards in the system.
I think first we take, if anybody has some clear-up questions first here, and then we take a 10-minute break before Robert is taking over. But first, if anybody has some clear-up questions, please feel free to do that.
I have one question.
Yeah.
The way to get metadata, is that now all manual, or are there any things like face recognition or technologies to...
Question about the metadata, and if all the metadata that we collect today is manual. No, everything is done by people in Denmark that do the work for us. No, no. It's manual, nearly all of it. And that is one thing that is very interesting, because right now the computers are getting more powerful, so that you can have face recognition, you can have language recognition, you can have reporters with an iPhone app when they're out, and the iPhone app is collecting where they are. The iPhone app could collect actually noise levels and everything while you're out there, and you can connect that to. But back to the system that we have today, it doesn't support that kind of metadata, and that's very important that we build a system that can support things like that.
Remember the term automagic.
Yeah.
More than that.
Because and basically our journalists love automatic metadata, because because writing metadata is extremely boring.